was successful. Good point. Thank you for recording. For our recorders, please start the recordings. Thank you. I hope for those of you for whom the breakout room experiment was successful, that you got a chance to meet a new person or perhaps say hello to somebody you haven't seen in a while. But now it seems like we're all here, so we can begin. Welcome. You're in the right place if you want to talk about the white paper on the future of environmental peacebuilding. My name is Annika, and I work for an organization called the Geneva Peacebuilding Platform. We are exactly as we sound. We are a Geneva-based platform dedicated towards a network of professionals who work in the peacebuilding realm. We also had just the great pleasure and privilege of facilitating this white paper project on the future of environmental peacebuilding, along with fabulous partners that I'm very excited to introduce you to today. I will be your sort of cruise director and facilitator for today's session. And to our interpreters, don't hesitate to let me know if I'm speaking too quickly. I want to make sure, I know there are some non-English speaking folks who are here, and we're so happy. And I want to make sure they can also understand. So, what are we doing here today? We have, let's see, 75 people and counting, some more people in the waiting room I see. Today's aim is to explore the findings of the paper, as well as to consider a couple of questions. So our sort of focus questions for the day, and I'll put these in the chat later, are what are the opportunities present for environmental peacebuilding, both within the field of practice, but also at international and domestic policy levels, even local policy levels? And how might we realize this agenda that's been set forth in the paper? So many of you here today contributed to the paper, you reviewed the paper, so many of you here today heard about the paper 2 days ago, and we're glad that you're here. So to give a quick agenda of the session, first we'll hear from some of the folks behind the white paper, some of the people who brought it to life. Then we'll do a bit of a spark stage or a quick stage of some of the compendium authors, as we'd love to hear some of the sort of highlights and takeaways from their contributions. And then we're going to open it up to a group discussion using Google Jamboard. I have faith in our technological capacities. We will figure it out. That's definitely the ethos on this project, is erring on the side of inclusion, even if it's slightly messy. And we are going to, yes, we're going to try to have a discussion with 75 people, and we'll get there. But just really quickly, the Zoom reminders that I want to give. First of all, as I said, we do have interpretation. You can click the globe icon at the bottom of your screen. And I just wanted to say thank you again to the World Bank and Peace Nexus Foundation for making interpretation possible. It's really special to have that, to allow us to expand our group. I also want to encourage all of you, starting now, to use the chat function. Please introduce yourselves. I was so pleased to see so many active chats this whole week. And I would love for this session to be the same. So if you're not able to raise your hand and take the microphone, please feel free to use that chat, but also now to introduce yourself. I know there are some people here at 5 a.m., at 3 a.m. from other countries or from other continents away from Switzerland. So please do introduce yourself. And as I see so many of you have, please, I just encourage all of you to turn your cameras on. We have a much more sort of interactive and sort of community feeling when we have our cameras on. The last thing is just to say, as with the other sessions, harassment in every form is unacceptable. And so the Environmental Peacebuilding Association has put together a policy and instructions, and we placed that in the chat, which also has contact information in case you see something. So I want to wrap up there so we can get into the discussion. But I do just want to say a massive thank you to the Environmental Peacebuilding Association for having us as a part of this conference and for giving such a space for this white paper discussion, to the Environmental Law Institute as well, but then also to our partners at the IUCN, the International Union for Conservation of Nature, and the Peace Nexus Foundation for your partnership on this white paper. It's just been such a fantastic ride. And then also to Peter, who's here as our tech host. Thank you so much for everything that you've contributed to this project. So now we're going to move into our sort of opening remarks, hear from some contributors. I will just say, move from our team members. I will just say, once we get to the compendium authors, I'm posting in the chat. This is the question I'll be asking. So if you want to start thinking about how to talk about your chapter, the question is there. So without further ado, let's talk about the white paper. What is the compendium? We're going to start today with Juliana. Juliana works at Alp Analytica as an environmental sustainability and climate security consultant, while also studying to receive her master's degree in human rights and humanitarian action from Sciences Po. She's worked for organizations like Relief International and is interested in the intersection of migration and displacement and climate and environmental change. Juliana is also one of the co-authors of the white paper and was the sort of cat herder in chief for the compendium. So many of you know her, many of you have interacted with her, and I'm just so glad that you can be here to kick off this discussion. Juliana, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Annika. It is such a pleasure to be here today and to see so many familiar faces and names, especially from the compendium contributors. I know I've been in email correspondence with a lot of you, so it's really, really nice to see you all, even though we can't be together in person. So what is the compendium? The Compendium of the Voices on the Future of Environmental Peacebuilding is a collection of 50 articles by authors from all over the world. And each article offers a different vision, lessons learned, and ideas to bring the field of environmental peacebuilding into the future. So why 50 chapters? The white paper and the compendium on the future of environmental peacebuilding are timed to mark the 50th anniversary of the 1972 Stockholm Conference, which is widely considered to be the birthplace of the modern environmental movement. So 50 articles is symbolic. We have 154 different authors from over 80 organizations across 30 countries. So clearly the spirit of this project was also to encourage collaboration, but not just across countries, but across sectors. So as you may notice, most of the compendium chapters have been written by authors from 2 or more organizations from various sectors, straddling civil society, indigenous groups, government, think tanks, the private sector, etc. Because as we learn in the compendium, the ways forward in this field are described by the authors to involve the same cross-sectoral collaboration, dialogue, and inclusion of all stakeholders. So you may notice that in the compendium, the chapters are grouped into 9 different themes. For example, foundations, nature, justice, movement, etc. And these themes kind of arose naturally for us after we received all the 50 articles. And were quite evidently the categories that captured the different issues that were more broadly tackled in the compendium. So when you open the compendium, you should expect to see that each chapter proposes a big idea, a new approach, or that provides lessons learned from practical experiences in environmental peacebuilding. That being said, we're pretty conscious of the fact that much of the high-level dialogue in the field of environmental peacebuilding, especially in places like Geneva, has been dominated by European and American, predominantly white institutions. Now, one of the aims of this project was to try to avoid reproducing the power imbalance dating back to colonial systems of exploitation between the global north and the global south. And while the compendium is certainly not fully inclusive, and while there's still a very long way to go, whether you open it and read about feminist environmental peacebuilding in Zimbabwe, natural resource management in Darfur, cross-border ecological cooperation in Central Asia, or local environmental governance, in Colombia, the compendium hopes to contribute to this conversation by bringing to the forefront environmental peacebuilding initiatives, lessons learned, and knowledge from different corners of the world. We also know that not all the chapter authors will agree with each other. So to give you an example, chapter 29, A Change We Can Fight For, advocates for expanding the role of militaries deployed in peace operations to help foster environmental peacebuilding. Chapter 30, on the other hand, The Problem with Green Militarization, argues that involving militaries can lead to further marginalization and human rights abuses. So some of these articles contradict each other. They have diametrically opposed views, but that wasn't the point. Providing one unified vision of the future was never our goal. The compendium instead tries more so to provide options for us to come together and discuss, like we're doing right now. So the idea of this project revolves around the ecosystem for peace, which you've probably seen on our website or on the cover of the compendium and white paper. And this represents to us that just as a diversity of species is needed in a landscape to ensure resilience and health, so too a diversity of voices and experiences that are coming from different perspectives are essential if we want to build a resilient, dynamic, and lasting ecosystem for peace. So the ideas and perspectives presented in the compendium are what inspired the white paper, which is going to be discussed by Ollie Brown a little bit later on. And yeah, I just wanted to thank you so much thank you, Annika, for giving me the opportunity to share a little bit about this project. It's been such a pleasure learning from all the compendium authors and working with you all. And I really look forward to the chance to hear from you and discuss the paper further a little bit later. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Juliana. It's really fabulous to hear from you on this as well. And just thank you for all the work that went into this. I mean, it's you see the community that's come out of this. So thank you for playing such an important part in that. Now I have the pleasure to introduce Lynn Finnegan. Many of you have been discussing on Zoom chat, and I've seen it on social media, the art in the white paper. And so we wanted to take a moment to talk a little bit more about that. Lynn Finnegan was our art director for this project. She is an illustrator and editor from Northern Ireland, who's now based in Tipperary. She trained in international environmental law and worked in Geneva, including with the Quaker United Nations office and other international organizations, but then also has gone to the Belfast School of Art to get an MFA. She writes for the Earth Negotiations Bulletin, right, Lynn? Yep. So Lynn is this brilliant mind at the sort of intersection of arts, but then also this field of practice that we have, and we were just honored to have her participation. So Lynn is here to discuss exactly why art mattered to the project, some of the innovations in design, and also, yeah, just sort of why we wanted to bring an artistic vision to this. So Lynn, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Annika. That was wonderful. Thank you for your kind words. It's been an absolute delight to be part of this project. I'm going to share my screen. So, as you might have seen in the white paper, we have 9 artists from all around the world featured in the white paper. So we have artists from Rwanda, Morocco, Afghanistan, Hawaii, US, UK, and Ireland. And we really did feel it was very important to include art in the project. And I just want to tell you a little bit about why and the sort of philosophical reasons behind that. So I have been increasingly bridging the world of policy and art throughout the past 15 years, and I love them both. I don't want to choose between them. I think art without policy can feel very frustrating and disempowering. And I also feel like policy without art is missing something. So I have sat in UN meetings before, both very, very grateful for the amount of expertise and knowledge in the room, and also secretly hoping that someone will just stand up and burst into song or start screaming or just something emotionally truthful and honest about the topic that we're talking about at the time. And this is what I think art is. I think art in all its forms, poetry, literature, art, and music, can really give us that permission to acknowledge and to express different ways of knowing. And I think that this is part of decolonizing environmental peace building, and I really am looking forward to the decolonizing session later on this afternoon. Sorry, the slideshow has ended, so I'm just like clicking through them as I speak. I also think that art, so it gives us the permission to acknowledge these different ways of knowing. And I think it also often doesn't teach the audience anything. I think it just helps unlock what is already there. Julia Cameron, who is an artist and a wonderful writer as well, says the act of making art exposes a society to itself. Art brings things to life. It illuminates us. It sheds light on our lingering darkness. And I just absolutely love that. And so as an artist who bridges the world of policy and art, I have 2 invitations for you. The first one is you're all around the world, spread all around the world, and I just invite you to work with artists if you have the chance, and if you have the possibility and the window of opportunity in your work. Work with artists, there are so many of them locally. Work with local artists, Indigenous artists, whoever you can find. They might take a bit of digging, but they are there. I'm going to stop sharing now. My second invitation to you is maybe I'm just going to say something maybe a little bit cheeky, but also very obvious at the same time. So I'm just going to say, in case anybody needs to hear it, as policymakers and academics, you do not have to choose between your intellect and your emotional intelligence. So you do not have to pick between policy and art. You are allowed to nourish yourself and energize yourself and anchor yourself with the art of your culture and of cultures from all around the world. It will not make you less intelligent. It may in fact add to your intelligence, and it will certainly add to your wisdom. So that is both my plea and my invitation to you as an artist, and as an artist that really wants to help serve this community, because there's so many of us, there's so many artists around the world that want to help serve you in your work and to help energize you and to help uphold the work that you're doing, because it is so important. So that is all I want to really say. I really look forward to the discussion. And I just want to say thank you, and how delighted it's been to be part of this project and to share the white paper with everybody. So back to Annika, I think.
Thank you, Lynn. That was wonderful. And I see now the chat is full of excitement for your words. Thank you for, I think sometimes we need that permission slip in this community. So thank you for giving it to us. I also want to say I've already received a few emails in my inbox of, I'm sold, how do I incorporate art? So maybe you and I are going to need to put together a little guide of ideas. And Carl, this comes back to how we need to, by we, I mean me, need to really work on this arts repository of the Environmental Peacebuilding Association, as well as a directory of artists. So that's on, this is now very firmly on my to-do list for the next month, so that we can actually sort of put our money where our mouth is and commit to this. Thank you, Lynn. I'm happy to move on to our next speaker. For those of you who don't know, this project was facilitated by the Geneva Peacebuilding Platform, but was really a work of a steering committee. A group of individuals who put in a lot of time and energy and effort into making this happen. Lots of meetings, lots of emails, lots of WhatsApp messages from me, poking along. And here to not represent the entire steering committee, but to speak on behalf and send a vision today is Hannah Musa from the IUCN. And I forgot to paste your bio into my notes doc, Hannah, so I'm going to read it off of my phone. Hannah has been working at the IUCN, which is the International Union for Conservation of Nature, for almost 3 years, first serving as the Forum Deputy Manager for the IUCN World Conservation Congress, and now as a Program Officer for the IUCN Academy. Previously, she worked with the UN and other international organizations in policy research and analysis, conference planning, project support, communications, coordination for 5 years. Many of you know her in different capacities, and I think she's the perfect person to be here today to talk about collaboration. Why exactly did we want to go for a collaborative approach? Why did we bring in a conservation organization into the steering committee, which was an essential ingredient? And to sort of discuss how that collaboration worked between silos, particularly in our little Geneva ecosystem. So Hannah, over to you.
Thank you so much, Annika, and it's lovely to be here with you all today. I'm really thrilled and honored to be here as part of this roundtable. And it's really quite fitting that you've asked me these questions right after we heard from Lynn on including art in such projects. And for many of you tuned in, you may be wondering, first of all, well, what is IUCN and why are we engaging in this space as a steering committee member? So for those of you who don't know, the International Union for Conservation of Nature, IUCN, is a membership organization, a membership union, and we comprise over 1,400 member organizations, states, government agencies, non-government agencies, Indigenous peoples organizations, and we benefit from the input of over 18,000 experts from across 6 commissions. So working collaboratively across actors and sectors is truly in IUCN's DNA. Now, when you think of environmental peace building, IUCN is likely not the first organization to come to your mind. So what are the connections between peace and the conservation of nature? In fact, there are many, and here I'll just highlight a couple to give you a taste. At the most basic level, critical areas for conservation are often areas where conflicts are prevalent. And in order to operate in these areas, knowledge of conflict is necessary. Conflicts tend to have a negative impact on nature, and so reducing conflicts also helps to conserve nature. Now, reflecting on these very base level plus other interlinkages between peace, conservation, and nature, it's not surprising then that we decided at IUCN to focus the first report of our flagship series, Nature in a Globalized World, on the topic of conflict and conservation. And this report was published in April last year, and I'll drop the link to the report in our chat, and the report is also referenced in the white paper. Soon after this launch of the flagship report in the summer last year, we worked collaboratively with Conservation International, WWF Germany, and Peace Nexus to release a podcast on the Voices for Peace and Conservation. And my lovely colleague here, Hester, one of our steering committee members as well, was the host of this podcast. So if you haven't heard it yet, do check it out. And again, we'll drop the link in the chat for you. At the World Conservation Congress of IUCN last September in Marseille, the topic of peace, conflict, and conservation was also the focus of several sessions, including a high-level dialogue, which Ollie moderated, and at the Members' Assembly, IUCN's highest decision-making body adopted a resolution on the protection of the environment in relation to armed conflict. And there are many other examples of IUCN collaborating with actors from across sectors in this field. Across our 6 commissions, we see collaborations, including through the Commission on Ecosystem Management, the World Commission on Environmental Laws, Peace, Security, and Conflict Specialist Group. Carl, who most, if not all of us know, is actually a chair emeritus on this group, as well as the Commission on Environment, Economic, and Social Policies, Environment, and Peace theme. And the co-chairs of this group, Galeo and Elaine, have also been engaged in this white paper process and compendium as well. There are many other areas where IUCN's work engages and intersects with peace and conflict, including on natural resource governance, and a latest collaboration between IUCN's Environmental Law Center and Pax for Peace on strengthening actions for nature in relation to armed conflict. So at the policy level, IUCN has been and continues to engage in this field across different parts of the Union in a cross-sectoral and multi-stakeholder manner. So it's important here for me to note that IUCN and the conservation community, for those who don't know, more broadly, have not been centrally engaged in the environmental peacebuilding field from its inception. However, we are convinced that conservation actors have a positive and proactive role to play in supporting and contributing to this field. While conservation alone is no silver bullet, there is robust evidence and experience to suggest that nature conservation definitely needs to be part of the solution. And we as conservation organizations still have a way to go in ensuring that we are conflict sensitive and working in a way that takes on board peace building and conflict contexts in our work. So naturally, when the opportunity arose to collaborate on this white paper, we felt it timely and necessary to join this process as a steering committee member. So you may be wondering what it was like for a conservation organization to serve as a member on the steering committee. So I'll just take a minute here to reflect on the how of collaborating across these silos. And I want to preface this by saying that we are very aware of and acknowledge that cross-sectoral, multi-actor, intergenerational collaboration may look very different depending on the nature of the project, whether you're doing a policy research collaboration or implementing a project in a post-conflict context, for example. And the challenges and opportunities you face and are presented with as you build a project or initiative with the aim of breaking down silos could also look very different. Nevertheless, I think it's really important that we reflect on what worked well in this collaboration and the lessons we can draw from it. So as you heard a bit from Juliana, the compendium and white paper was truly a product of a multi-stakeholder, multi-sectoral, multilingual, multi-stage process. Looking specifically at our steering committee, what stands out is the composition of the group. We had different types of actors, a private foundation, an environmental association, an environmental nonprofit, a conservation union, a peacebuilding platform, collaborating across different sectors, peacebuilding, environment, conservation, development, and generations. And intergenerational collaboration has been the hallmark of this process from its inception. As you all know, Annika has been facilitating this process from the outset. So a few takeaways from our effort to break down silos, which may be useful for others trying to design a similar process. First, it's critical to build collaboration and silo bust intentionally into projects from the design phase. Second, we feel it's absolutely paramount to be inclusive. From the design phase again, we need to ensure that those who are most affected, most impacted are driving the process. Inclusivity is essential from the management to the implementation phases and everything in between. Third, who is leading and who is organizing really matters. An individual organizing or leading a collaborative project needs to have the willingness, the openness, and the desire to be collaborative and overcome any challenges that this may pose. And it's also critical at this stage to identify the right types of individuals to bring together and champion such a collaborative effort. And if any of you know, Annika is the best person to do this. And finally, ownership really matters. And I think this also ties in with good leadership. Who owns the project has an impact. And I know from all of you working in this field, you know this better than anyone else. Ownership truly matters. We worked hard as a steering committee, I feel, to serve in the role of guiding and steering the process, but the project truly was owned by the hundreds of people who collaborated with us in different ways to bring this project to life. So as I said before, working collaboratively on this white paper where we could think outside of the box and draw outside the lines may be more conducive to silo busting, but over the past couple of days in the sessions I've attended, I've heard time and again, not only the willingness from speakers and participants alike to collaborate, but also meaningful concrete examples of existing collaborations across sectors, actors, and generations, and efforts to bridge the policy practice interface as well. And I think our field, as we all know and agree, is inherently cross-cutting. These past couple of years, going through a global pandemic, have reminded us just how interconnected our systems, processes, and sectors are. And so for us to even stand a chance of tackling the triple planetary crisis, we need to start urgently breaking down these silos across sectors, stakeholder groups, and generations. Representing a conservation organization at this roundtable, for me, what has been truly inspiring in this process is recognizing the art of what is possible if we are intentional, if we are open-minded, and sincerely willing to work through the challenges to break down these silos. And with that, I'd like to sincerely thank Annika from the Geneva Peacebuilding Platform, Hesta, Daniela, Heloise from Peace Nexus, Carl, ELI and NPAX, Ollie and Juliana from Alp Analytica, and Lynn for having us on this journey. It's been truly inspiring and meaningful, both personally and professionally. So thank you for having us here today. And back to you, Annika.
Oh gosh, Hannah, that was wonderful. And my sincere thanks back to you. It's just been such a pleasure. I also want to thank as well Rainer and Achim from the Geneva Peacebuilding Platform, who stood previously on the steering committee and made such important contributions to the process. Whew, man, okay, so we've talked a lot about process, right? We've talked about what is the compendium? How did it come to be? Why art? What does that add? How can we bring other parts and other ways of knowing to this work? Why collaboration? How does that work? Why does it work? Let's maybe get into the content a little bit. Our last speaker in this segment before we move into a bit more interactivity is, of course, Ollie Brown. You have heard from Ollie on Tuesday for the official launch. He wears many hats, as I said before. He's been working at this nexus for about 17 years now. He's an associate fellow with Chatham House, with the Geneva Center for Security Policy. He also works with TrustWorks Global. He is the founder of his own organization, Alp Analytica, and he's had extensive experience working in the UN over the years. I think you say your goal is to both enter and leave the UN 5 times. That's correct? Yeah, okay. So Ollie, can you tell us what is the white paper? What did we learn? What did we find? What seems to be the case about the future of environmental peacebuilding?
Thank you so much, Annika. It's a real pleasure to be here. And it's hard, Juliana, Lynn, and Hannah are hard acts to follow, but let me just take a couple of minutes to talk about the white paper. And what it's trying to do is take that diversity of voices, this amazing group of people that, as Hannah was saying, I tried to note it down, multilingual, multi-sectoral, multi-generational, multi-country, to take that diversity and try and bring it into an agenda for the future of environmental peacebuilding. And the "and" there is important. It's not the agenda. It's not, there are no absolute truths here. What we were trying to do was look for these kind of points of commonality between these 50 chapters, the 154 authors, the something like, 150 reviewers we had, and try and bring out what I guess were some of the common themes in terms of where has this area come from over the last, decades. It's come from a sort of a niche area of academic interest into something that has now been discussed multiple times by the Security Council this year. So it's really emerged as an area of interest to sort of say, what has it achieved? What are the challenges still with environmental peacebuilding? What are the sort of issues that it needs to perhaps address? Juliana was talking about some of those, the fact that a lot of the people working on environmental peacebuilding look too much like me, sitting in nice, comfortable offices in Europe or North America. And it doesn't reflect the full variety of people who are affected by the environmental impacts of conflict, or that hold some of the keys of building peace through environmental cooperation. So it was trying to look at some of those challenges. How can we be more intentional, inclusive, bring in these different voices, where some of the opportunities are, the fact that there's, that we have an awareness that we haven't had in the past of the links between environment, conflict, and peace building. The fact that we know some of the things to do, that we have more knowledge, more experience, more lessons on what's working and what's not. And that's what I'm really looking forward to hearing in the next segment on this Spark platform, of all of these ideas of how we can take this forward. And I've learned so much through this process from, friends in Colombia, from friends in Ethiopia, and around the world, in terms of what's been tried, what's worked, and what hasn't. So where these opportunities are, and then what a potential agenda for the future might be. So we were trying to kind of, without suffocating the diversity of voices, to look for some of these areas of common expertise. And that's my second point. I guess we were wanting to look at both in this agenda, the how and the what, in terms of how can this new community, this family of people interested in environmental peacebuilding work, in terms of changing perhaps the mindset, being more inclusive, recognizing the diversity of voices, but then also what can the area of environmental peacebuilding do in future in terms of focusing on leadership, creating a political space for environmental peacebuilding to happen, thinking about the policies, so building opportunities for environmental peacebuilding into the DNA of, policies at the European Union level, or the African Union, or the UN, or national level, subnational level, making sure that there's continued opportunities to share knowledge, which is the kind of the driving idea of this whole exercise, so that we can all learn from each other. And that we improve our practice, so that conservation organizations, as Hannah was saying, can think about their potential conflict impacts, and conflict and peace building organizations can think about bringing in environmental dimensions to their work. So we came up with 8 areas that we thought were common sort of themes for the future of environmental peacebuilding, that straddle both the how and the what, but then within that, there's loads of great ideas that I'm really looking forward to digging into a bit more now, in terms of what's worked in different places around the world. So with that, let me turn back to you, Annika.
Thank you so much. I just want to pick up on a thread there, which is this idea that I think when we think about the future of our field, often the way that it comes out is in the how. We need to be more inclusive. We spend a lot of time trying to be intentional through consultations, thinking about that where are we going? What is the sort of state that we want to arrive at? And so I think that's sort of an interesting addition that this paper makes to the field. And with that, we would love to hear from some compendium authors, again, trying to drill down more and more into some of these specific visions. So I would invite you, if you have contributed to the compendium, and I note that we will open up the discussion wider. So we do it, just because you didn't contribute to the compendium this time doesn't mean we don't also want to hear from you. We do, but for this segment, just the compendium authors. The question that I have, I think I posted in the chat a while ago, was if in 2 minutes, can you summarize your sort of looking ahead section? Where from your vision, where are we going? And I will stay off mute and sort of keep time pretty quickly, because we'd love to hear sort of quick visions. So I reached out to some of you in advance to maybe prompt to see if I could get you to quick kickstart the conversation. So I'd invite you, if you'd like to speak, to raise your hand. You can do the raise hand Zoom function by clicking reactions at the bottom of the screen and then raise your hand. Otherwise, if you can't do that, you can type in the chat if you'd like to take the stage and share. We had Hassan, is he here? We had him in the audience earlier, but I think sometimes his Wi-Fi cuts out. I don't think he's here right now. Okay, Seb, let's start with you. Can you give us 2 minutes? Where are we going in environmental peacemaking?
I'll try my best. Thanks a lot, Annika. So my colleague Lena, who's also on the call, and I wrote one of the articles, and it was called Operationalizing Environmental Peacemaking and Perspectives on Integrating the Environment into Peacemaking. So we used peacemaking and not peace building because our organization, the Center for Humanity and Dialogue, focuses a little bit more on ending the violent part of conflict by brokering deals, getting to agreements, etc. And so we hope to bring in the voice and the view of the peace mediation and negotiation sector into that compendium. So very briefly, maybe 2 things to look ahead. I was inspired by Lynn's more artistic take on it, and I thought the community so far was a bit on improvisational theater, that there wasn't much of a script, and so I feel the white paper is giving us a bit of a script on how to connect and how to do things. And so for me, looking forward, it's kind of all about the action from our perspective. So we have a lot of colleagues who work in and on the conflicts facing their countries, and there's a lot of movement, there's a lot of enthusiasm with our mediators of integrating the environment into their peace negotiations. There's a real drive to do that in our operations, and it's stunning, it's inspiring, and it's quite a motivation to do that. So this is really where we are looking forward. And being mediators, a lot of us don't know very much about the environment or climate change, so it's a big learning curve for us. And we're starting to really invite environmentalists and experts into our negotiations, into our space. And it's nice to see that it works, and yeah, it really contributes. So in a few years' time, what I think I'd love to see are basically more climate sensitive peace agreements, but also this being a space where often there will not be formal agreements, peace agreements and such things, but there's still a space for cooperation and really concrete improvements. And yeah, I leave it at that. Thanks, Annika.
Thank you, Seb. And I'd invite our team to, if you can find the link to his article or to HD's article and put it in the chat, it'd be great as people are speaking to try to get those in the chat. I also do, before I come to you, Cedric, who's next, I do have one question that maybe Carl or the interpreters could send me a message about. Is it possible to have interpretation from Spanish into English? Because if Gisela is still here, I know that you wrote, you represent an important article. And so I want, if it's possible, it is Carl?
Yes.
Okay, so people would just need to go to the English channel, essentially, right?
That is correct.
Okay, Gisela, I'm putting you on the spot. Maybe in a couple minutes, if you want to share, we'd love to hear from you as well. Okay, Cedric, over to you.
Thank you so much. And I just first of all want to say that I really enjoyed and appreciated this
Annika, Juliana, Carl, a todos, mil gracias. Yo hago parte del colectivo de guardaparques del Sistema de Parques Nacionales de Colombia. Han sido asesinados 17 guardaparques, están amenazados la mayoría de los guardaparques acá en Colombia, y también han sido asesinados comunidades indígenas, comunidades negras, comunidades campesinas. Para nosotros esto fue una oportunidad muy importante, a pesar de lo que nos expone. Acá el cuento no es de parece que hicimos un artículo, sino nos expone la vida también, pero queríamos ser la voz de la naturaleza, contar nuestra historia, contar la historia de las víctimas, y nosotros hicimos un informe que presentamos a la Jurisdicción Especial para la Paz aquí en Colombia, en el sistema de justicia transicional, y quiero decirles a ustedes que estamos muy emocionados con haber hecho este artículo propositivo sobre acciones de política pública, de cómo el desarrollo no puede seguirse pensando que la conservación de la naturaleza, que los defensores del ambiente somos contrarios al desarrollo, sino todo lo contrario. De conservar la naturaleza depende la sobrevivencia de todos. En nombre del colectivo de guardaparques del sistema de parques nacionales de defensores del ambiente, queremos decirles que necesitamos que nos ayuden a abrir ese espacio, a que seamos la voz desde las víctimas, de también decir cómo es posible seguir adelante. Y no queremos ser revictimizados, queremos también mostrar la esperanza, esa fe que tenemos, ese compromiso que tenemos de seguir trabajando aquí por la conservación, por la gente, por el territorio y por esto que todos amamos, una vida diversa, natural y culturalmente. Gracias, Annika, Juliana, a todos ustedes. Incluso el idioma es importante. Eso hace que también sea incluyente. Akar, gracias por acompañarnos cuando hicimos el informe. Tus orientaciones nos ayudaron mucho. Mil gracias a todos.
Thank you so much. I'm really glad that we were able also to make this work with the translation, but thank you for your active participation throughout this whole process and your trust in us for sharing your stories and your visions for the future. It's really been a treat. Okay, shall we go to Cedric now?
Thank you very much. And I wanted to start off by just acknowledging and appreciating the whole process. And I think Gisela's contribution just now really exemplifies that. It was my first Environment of Peace meeting conference. And I'm so struck by, compared to many of the other research associations or things that I'm part of, how practice-oriented this community is. And the white paper process itself, it's just been so collaborative, and I love the art, I love the short format, I love the collaboration. So really thank you to all of you for bringing us together. I contributed, together with a number of co-authors and colleagues, a piece called Adaptive Peacebuilding, Improving Climate-Related Security Risk Management Through Real-Time Data and Analysis. And those two elements in the title is also what I think that the two elements I wanted to highlight. On the one hand, this focus on the need for adaptive peace building to cope with emerging climate-related security risks through an iterative, inductive experimentation, doing whilst learning approach. And at the same time, a recognition that this process can be enhanced by feeding the adaptive process with real-time data and analysis. And in this piece, we share one particular data process that is being developed, or data tool that is being developed by CJIR, called the Climate Security Crisis Observatory. And I also just wanted to end by emphasizing the important role of community engagement and community agency, local agency in the whole approach of adaptive peace building. So in adaptive peace building, it's very important that there's a recognition that the emergence of resilient self-organizing social institutions is a prerequisite for self-sustaining peace. So the active participation of the effective communities and society in all stages of the adaptive process is absolutely critical. And that's why peace building and environmental peace building needs to be informed, shaped, and sustained by the knowledge and goals of the affected community. Thank you so much, and back to you, Annika.
Thank you. And I think we got your piece linked in the chat too, in case anybody wants to follow up on that. I really appreciate it. Caroline, shall we go to you next?
Thank you very much, Annika. And yes, also from my side, first of all, a big congratulations to the marvelous compendium with the beautiful pictures inside. Lynn, your art and the layout is so wonderful that alone is very nice to look at. And then the content, I think, is also really very, very good. Thanks to all in the steering group and to those who put that all together and the authors. And to you also, Annika, you were coordinating also so well the whole process. Thanks. I just can underline with what Cedric said before. So thanks a lot. I'm working in Germany for the working group on peace and development, FreeEnd, and I contributed together with colleagues from FreeEnd, from the team, and with colleagues from Swedwatch and from CUNO, from the Quakers United Nations office, a brief article where we were focusing on the challenging sector for environmental peace building, which we consider to be the business and economic development sector. Having the feeling that those are often also to be considered as critical causes on the one side for environmental damages, and on the other side also in aggravating conflict and re-escalation of violence in certain contexts where you had conflicts before, or in any sort of context where business activities on business projects or economic development projects are planned. And our major recommendation for the way forward was therefore that we say environmental peace building should become obligatory for all actors, including business, throughout the conflict continuum. And quite specifically, we said that would mean that also human rights and conflict sensitivity should become obligatory for guidelines, for plans of economic development programs, for business projects, and should be really monitored and guided and implemented and applied. So this obligation of merging human rights-based approaches with conflict sensitivity in all stages of projects or programs and policies also to look at that. And also then what we often observe is that when it comes to also failed projects, or on the long run after projects or programs for economic development are terminated, the environmental damage and also social peace negative impacts are not taken into account any further. And so we say we need to have readiness to already in the beginning of planning anything, to also think about how to compensate, how to restore, and how to act later on. And that addresses, of course, also governments, but also the business sector and the development banks or other funding partners who support this kind of large-scale investments, to be ready right from the beginning to set finances aside and to plan for compensation, restoration, and feel accountable also beyond the project cycle in itself.
Thank you. And thank you for the contribution as well. I think I've been thinking more and more recently about how one thing that I don't hear about as much, I haven't heard about as much at this conference, is also about our interactions with business actors. And so it's really an important contribution. Somebody has said potentially Hassan is here, but under a different name. Hassan, are you with us? I know you had said you would speak, but I just wanted to check. Just in case. No, darn it. That is okay. Sometimes the Wi-Fi is not so good. Is there anybody else who wants to share? We have time for one more, if anybody would like to share a bit about their compendium piece and looking ahead. Yes, please. With pleasure. Alejandro, over to you.
Thank you.
No, great. Okay, perfect. Go ahead.
I trust that you can hear me well. Good morning, good afternoon, everybody. Congratulations. I would like to second the words of other speakers. Congratulations to the organizing team for this wonderful effort. And thank you very much again to Oli, to Juliana, and to everybody. It's such an honor for me to be part of this broader project. I wrote an article together with Albert Martinez from UNEP and Ji-Won Bang from Planet, talking about how we can leverage the digital transformation for integrated climate and conflict sensitive policy, program, and business. And in this article, we talk about how international actors like the European Union acknowledge the existence of climate-related security risks, but still fail at translating this into peace-building practice. And one of the reasons why this is the case is because of the gap between conflict and peace experts on the one hand and environmental experts on the other hand. Hence, we need climate sensitivity to be integrated into peace-building efforts, as well as conflict sensitivity to be included in climate adaptation and mitigation efforts, as many others have said this in the past. Now, how can we do that? Well, we can leverage the digital transformation in order to maximize our chances at succeeding in this endeavor. We need to catalyze what we call a digital by default analysis and monitoring of both climate and conflict. And we also need to support the integration of the necessary cross-sectoral expertise through capacity building for policy and digital literacy to fight the so-called digital divide. There are many tools that can help us to achieve this. We know of Earth observation, we know of artificial intelligence, always in combination with local knowledge and best practices. And when it comes to Earth observations, we have seen recent breakthroughs in this technology that have improved the temporal and spatial resolution of data. And this is very important because it can help us, together with greater integration and automation of analysis, to ensure that non-technical users can access and process this data so that they can inform their policies, hence allowing us to overcome the challenges in this integration. Our article talks about this, and it also talks about how we can leverage or maximize opportunities for public-private partnerships to enhance these efforts. And we have a case study of Planet, which is a leading environmental emission-driven Earth imagery company that has improved precisely these Earth observation technologies. And it's using it together with EU's Copernicus emergency management system to enhance early warning for floods, for droughts, for wildfires. So our two recommendations along these lines would be precisely those. On the one hand, enhance the digital literacy, prepare the community of practice so that they are ready to maximize the opportunities presented by the digital transformation. And on the one hand, also promote and favor public-private partnerships that allow us to access the data, the technology, and the state-of-the-art business that is happening at the moment. I try to be brief. Once again, thank you very much for this opportunity and congratulations for this fantastic initiative.
Thank you. It's such an important point. David Jensen brought up yesterday in the awards ceremony this importance exactly of understanding the digital divide, and that, yes, we are here on Zoom having this conversation, but that doesn't translate everywhere, right? So there are many gaps that we still need to explore. So thanks for making proposals on how we can get a little bit closer to that vision. Okay, we have 30 minutes left. I think we can maybe transition to the last sort of segment of our show today, which I'm hoping to get perhaps even a little bit more interactive. So we're not going to post the link to the Jamboard in the chat yet, because I'm going to give you a chance to actually reflect on some questions. So the reason that normally this is a part of the show where in our sort of white paper discussions where we go into breakout rooms. However, we have interpretation and we are recording. So we will stay together as a group of 85 people, and that's going to be an adventure. we're going to use what's called a Google Jamboard for a group exercise around 2 focus questions. I know some of you are on Zoom on your phone, so I'll provide an option so that in case you can't access the technology, you can still participate in the conversation. A Google Jamboard is just a shared workspace. It's literally, you'll see it in a minute. It's just a shared workspace where we can share ideas. It's a way that we can sort of participate as a big group. I do even have a Jamboard in Spanish and a Jamboard in French so that you can participate in any of the 3 languages of our conversation today. So what are we posting about before we get there? I have, as I said at the beginning, 2 focus questions, and I'm going to ask Peter to place them in the chat in our 3 languages now. So the 2 questions are, and you can pick, you can answer both, you can answer one or the other, but it's just to kind of get your gears moving, and so that we can all kind of participate a little bit. The first question is, what are the opportunities present for environmental peace building, both sort of within our field of practice, but then also at other levels? I wrote the international or domestic levels. Honestly, it could also be local levels. That's an important missing piece. So that's the first question. And the second is, how might we realize the agenda set forth in this paper? We have an ambitious agenda, but how can we actually, what needs to happen next to bring it to life? We'll talk a little bit about that at the end. So these are the 2 questions. I am, again, before we put the Jamboard link in the chat, I'm actually going to mute myself and just give you maybe 2 or 3 minutes to get out a pen and paper or your notes app and reflect. So I'll mute myself and invite you to think about these 2 questions for just a couple minutes before we get to the next segment. Okay, maybe just 1 more minute. Again, you can answer one or the other or both. Okay. All right. So let's go ahead and get a conversation going and see what types of reflections people are coming up with. So we can go ahead and put the Jamboard link in the chat. Thank you, Peter. Thank you so much, Peter, for all of your help today. It's really invaluable. So if you open up this link, yep, I'm seeing we have now all kinds of people joining. It's on my second screen over here. You'll see that there's a few different slides, and I promised there were options in case you can't open the link, and that is true. Your option is the Zoom chat. You can type your answer in the Zoom chat and we'll make it into a note to post on here. So the Jamboard is pretty straightforward. We've used it before within the white paper process, so you may have already seen this. But the idea is that you can just click on the left-hand side. There's a little icon that looks like a little square. You can just click that square and it'll pop up a little note that you can type in on. If it would, yep, see, I see people creating example note. Great, okay. I will also just say sometimes the notes tend to stack up on each other. So I will move them. Yep, see exactly, somebody just made one and moved it. Now I've made a couple of different slides. There's the first question. Oh, the limit of people who can access the Jamboard has been reached. That is an interesting exploration that I will figure out. Thank you for putting that in the chat, Kristen. Okay, we have problems with access. What if I duplicate it and try to make a second? Can I duplicate? Yes, I can. We are making a copy. I'm making a second one and I'll paste the link to the second one in the chat as well. So if you can't access the first, then you can go to the second. You'll notice if you click at the top of the screen, there it says 1 out of 5. There are slides for the other questions. And if it's helpful for me to screen share, then just let me know. I'm almost ready with that second Jamboard. Thanks for your patience. We always know something is going to go weird with the technology when you try to get, we have had some people leave, we're down to 72. But when you try to have 72 people collaborate on a shared internet platform, something is bound to go wrong. Okay, here is the link to the second Jamboard, if you could not access the first. Cool. So again, there's different questions along. Yep, I see somebody's in there. There's one in French. There's one in Spanish. Yes, Gisela, I see you found it. That's good. And I'm just going to give it a minute here. This is what we like to call in the business interstitial dialogue, where I keep talking while you figure out how to use the technology and type your thought on there. And then again, if you can't access anything and the technology is going crazy, feel free to just type your idea in the chat and we'll get it up there for you. Wow, there's a lot. I've noticed there are more answers to the first question than to the second question. Or did everybody put their answers on the first board, which is also possible. I'm just gonna, again, give everybody a minute to just read through some of these. So there's a lot about collaboration I'm seeing, momentum for cooperation, shared realization by climate and environment experts, peacebuilding practitioners of the necessity to work together. There's one, cooperation across sectors, conflict prevention and environmental action should go hand in hand. One on building coalitions and making use of peace and security agendas. I also see a lot about young people, growing climate awareness due to young climate activists, greater youth engagement and collaboration, the youth peace and security agenda. We have a lot, oh, somebody's drawing a little sun on the first Jamboard, that's fun. Now I'm gonna look at the second so we make sure we don't leave it out. Let's see. We have partnerships between different actors in this space, humanitarian organizations, development actors, policymakers, military and security sector, conservation organizations. This is great. So what I'm curious about here, and I would invite anybody maybe to, if they want to raise their hand and speak up, I know we're a lot of people, but you're all very smart people and I value what you think. I'm curious, we've now heard this sort of refrain come up over and over again through many sessions of the necessity of collaboration across sectors. And I'm curious, Hannah also gave a great input on this about sort of what works and how to be intentional about it, making sure that the people who are managing the collaborations are the right people, et cetera. But I'm curious if anybody here has any have you been a part of other interdisciplinary, inter-silo, intergenerational, multilingual collaborations and have any lessons learned? Is there anything, this is sort of just a question to the audience, is there anything that you would want to share with the audience about how collaborations actually work? We seem to agree that we want to do them, but does anybody have any lessons learned they'd want to share? And feel free to raise your Zoom hand. Yep, Camille, please, we'd love to hear from you.
Yes, hello. So speaking from an international alert perspective, so peacebuilding organization, we're part of the Water, Peace and Security Partnership. So I put on one of the border point on, creating like innovative synergies and going beyond your comfort zone to address the complex impacts on climate change on social dynamics. Within the Water, Peace and Security Partnerships, we work with engineers, water management, academia, and a wide range of conservation organizations as well. And I think a lessons learned on this process is really know what you bring to the collaboration and what you expect from others. So in this kind of large consortium with I think it's six organizations and other additional organizations joining on different aspects of the partnership. It's really important what each partner expects from each other partner and to have very honest discussions about limitation, what you bring and what you expect from the other. And I think that's really moving forward a common agenda. That's what's needed.
Oh, that's really smart. I can't remember if it was maybe at the Strata launch on Tuesday, something similar, because I know Strata, it's a UNEP tool around climate security, is a similar partnership across organizations. I know I've heard exactly this point too, which is just around clarifying expectations, but then also I think creating sort of conditions or a container through which each partner can contribute the best of what they have to offer, and that you can kind of fit together all of the different sort of strengths to move forward. This actually brings me then to page 2 of the Jamboard, which is on the second. So not all of you can see both. Well, actually, yeah, some of you can only see the first one, some of you can only see the second one. I feel privileged to see both. But there's a really cool point on one of the Jamboards on the second page. So this is the question, how might we realize the agenda set forth in the paper, that says, I would love to see all 154 authors of this white paper collaborating as a huge task force for collective actions on environmental peace building. And I have no idea why. I never thought of that before. That's really, really an interesting idea. Again, it comes down to collaborative advocacy to change the political and donor landscape for our action, bringing together different voices to amplify the message. The contributions are great, but very diverse. A way forward could be to divide into subgroups/action groups based on subcategories to facilitate practical action. Did somebody from the steering committee write that? Because that is very aligned with our plan, actually. So great job. This question is actually a kind of nice segue and setup for our sort of next steps of where we want this project to go. If I look on the first Jamboard for this question, I see, oh yeah, present the white paper at COP15 in Kunming, form new partnerships, need to integrate environmental peace building in university curricula, both for environment and peace studies. Engage with states who have been supportive of environmental rights resolution can be a good entry point. New innovative partnerships, leave your comfort zone. That seems to be a theme here as well. Connecting with relevant policymakers at a national, local, international level, etc. These are some really great, very practical points. And I just want to say that I think what we hope that this project can be is a place where everyone can find their spot of ownership. I think it was Hannah who said this maybe, or I mean, it's in the ethos of the project is for people to kind of take it and run with it. And so while we'll be moving forward into a sort of phase 2 of communication and dissemination in the months to come, and particularly moving towards Stockholm Plus 50, which I'll talk about at the end. If you have ideas, let's run with them. If you have capacity, let's run with them. This is always the challenge, right, is navigating capacity and priorities. But I just want to sort of encourage that energy and that sense of inspiration that I think so many people have about this project. The other thing I want to address, one of the points on here is it is premature to set forth an agenda. We need empirical analysis based on evidence. I've heard this come up quite a lot this week as well. I can't remember if it was in the plenary session yesterday. Someone was talking about, we were talking about the quantitative analysis and results. And so I think we need energy to be going into collaborations, but we also need energy. Those collaborations can help us get more funding, which can help us advance our analysis and advance the evidence base. And so it comes back to exactly how you said, Camille, about sort of putting together those partnerships or consortia that harness the best of what each kind of actor has to offer. Last thing I'll say is I still was really sort of struck by Lise Grande's comments on Wednesday at the plenary. For those of you who weren't there, she sort of towards the end just mentioned her advice for our field is to hone in and to prioritize on a specific message. And I fully see that from an advocacy point of view, but it is interesting to hold that with the white paper, which is intentionally a compendium of voices, some of whom disagree with one another. And so I think that that's something that we need to explore in the coming year, is how can we find moments where we hone in on really specific messages and prioritize to get that across, but then how can we still maintain this sort of, as we call it, this rich ecosystem for peace that we have, and with everybody kind of doing their bit where they are. Also loving the chat coming through right now. This is fabulous. Does anybody else want to share? I think we have time for maybe one more comment before we move into our closing remarks. Anybody else want to make a comment on the Jamboard? Did anybody put a sticky note up that I did not see that you would like me to read out? That also is fine. I'm happy to give voice to your part. Okay. Well, I will say, I will try, maybe we can even try to collate some of these responses that came across on the Jamboard and put them up as a new Medium post. Just to explain, we have both this beautiful website, Ecosystem for Peace. Thank you, Lynn and Peter, for making that possible. But we also have a Medium blog, which allows us to reach different types of audiences. We've had thousands and thousands of impressions over the past month of your articles. And the Ecosystem for Peace is now an influencer in the climate change category, which means anything we post in climate change gets pushed to the front of that page. And so we want to continue to use that as a channel. So some of you here today didn't contribute to the compendium. If you have a burning desire to do so, please just reach out. I'm happy to chat, and we sort of have that channel open to continue to bring out new information, and maybe I'll collate some of these responses and add another Medium post on there so that we can see. Maybe somebody from the team could post a link to the Medium, just the general Medium page in the chat. That would be super helpful. Okay, so continue to post on the Jamboard if more ideas come to you as we keep going. This is a really helpful way that we can kind of crowdsource ideas. But I would like to turn over, we have 2 more steering committee members here who I'd like to hear from to close. So first, I would love to invite Hesta to share. Hesta Grunewald is a conflict and security specialist with 17 years of experience in program delivery and management, technical advice, policy advocacy on conflict-sensitive development, gender and conflict, and broader peace and security issues. She's an associate consultant with the Peace Nexus Foundation. She works on the conflict sensitivity offer there with a focus on supporting international partners on conflict sensitivity integration and contributing to learning processes in this area. Hesta is also a very quick responder to emails, which is miraculous because I sent her many of them. So Hesta, please take the floor and share with us some of your synthesizing thoughts on what you've heard today and where we go.
Great, thank you, Annika, and thank you everyone for participating in the session today. And if, like me, you've been attending lots of sessions this week, then I'm hoping that your brains are in a better state than mine, because mine is absolutely overflowing with details and thoughts and ideas and contrasting things and stuff that needs to be digested. So one of my resolutions is next week to try and digest some of this, make some notes, maybe not lose all of the aha moments that have come up during the course of this week. And so, you know, in that same spirit, it's going to be impossible for me to synthesize everything that has been discussed, certainly this week, but even just in this session. One thing I did want to say just at the start, there's been a lot of joyful congratulations amongst ourselves for this project, but I also really want to express a word of thanks to the compendium authors, because all of you have gone along with a slightly wacky approach that we designed because we wanted this thing to be bridging silos and cross-collaborative and short, but also in depth, but also really on point. And you stuck with us and you wrote brilliant pieces, and thank you very much for that. I suppose what I wanted to do with my few remarks is just to zoom out a little bit, no pun intended, to say that, you know, there's so much detail, there's so much stuff. And for me, what's been coming out more and more strongly during the course of our discussions in the session, but also before in the conference, is that there are sort of two parallel tracks that we are all engaged in somehow, with lots of detail underneath each. The one is around this community building element, which is something I've really learned to appreciate also during this collaboration for the white paper, but it's something that we continue doing. We continue building the community, and within that is all of the self-reflection as a community, but also the outreach, the dialogue, the different languages, the bringing in lots of different voices, lots of different groups. So that community building element strikes me as remaining super important, also across disciplines, researchers, activists, practitioners, and so on. The second pathway is how do we change some of these structural things? And that's where the conversation around policymakers really keeps emerging and keeps coming back. And it will remain a key point for us as white paper proliferators, however we want to call ourselves, moving forward. And there, I think it is that challenge of how do we continue to communicate a message that says environmental peacebuilding is complex, but that doesn't mean that we should do nothing until we've got all the answers. And how, you know, how do we create those messages? So I suppose I had sort of three key messages flowing from that. One is that environmental peacebuilding is complex, and Cedric did a brilliant soundbite in the previous session where he said rocket science is complicated, but environmental peacebuilding is complex. It's way worse than rocket science. And so, you know, this is something that we can keep communicating, but without disempowering people and making them feel that nothing can be done. It's kind of communicating that we need that systems thinking. We need to think about catalysts and variables and learning by doing and so on. The second one is the evidence. We have lots of evidence. We need more evidence, and policymakers love evidence. So we're going to keep working on that. But again, without disempowering or paralyzing people. The evidence is there to be used. It's not there to say, oh, because we don't have all the evidence, we can't do anything. And the third one is talking about the how, which we've really talked about already now, and we had some interesting examples of collaboration. And that is also where we can really look at some practical examples of different modes of collaboration, formal, informal, with different types of communities, and continue to share ideas and learn from each other in this space about how we actually take this forward. I will leave it there, and I hope that we all still have energy for some of the really interesting sessions that are left for the rest of the day, but also to see all of you around as we continue taking forward this white paper process towards Stockholm and other venues. Thank you. Back to you, Annika.
So let me just cut in. I think Annika's just saying that the Wi-Fi in her house has just crashed. So with perfect timing, as these things always happen. But Hester, thank you so much for those wonderful kind of summary comments. And I believe I haven't got the agenda right in front of me now, but I believe we're turning to Carl. Is that correct?
Exactly.
To make some final comments. Annika's back. Okay, passing back to you.
Carl,
hard to follow Hester. But I have a friend whose tagline is, "Why, yes, I am a rocket scientist," and the observation flows. Rocket science may have a lot that you have to keep track of, but it's not nearly as complex with all the social and economic dimensions, the different perspectives, the lack of often a universally agreed upon truth. The narratives here are so much more complex. Both in the white paper and more broadly, I am so heartened and encouraged by the enthusiasm that I've seen. And the enthusiasm that you see after days of all of this, people are still enthusiastic, people are still happy, and that's a really good sign. I struggle at times with this question of where do we go? I think that there is a need for focus, but I'm not certain that that's necessarily that the community needs to focus. I'm getting to a point where I feel like there are elements of the community, members of the community that will focus on this particular issue or this particular geography, and that there is value in having the broad space, like in the white paper, where everyone can come together. You need both. You need the dialogue among the areas of focus, and you need the areas of focus. I think it still raises the question of what next. And I will flag that there is a really good opportunity to continue to expand the messages and expand the community with Stockholm Plus 50. That a lot of the things that we are talking about, conflict sensitivity and inclusion, and look at the political economy of these things, it's not just a question of economic or social or environmental, it's also sustainable development is also a question of peace. And to really be carrying that message to Stockholm Plus 50 as we look at the last 50 years of sustainable development and we look forward. So I think Stockholm Plus 50 is important. It will end less than 4 months from now. So there's still a lot more beyond that. And I think that one thing I'm hearing a lot about is this how we understand a fair amount of what the problems are. The question is, what are the solutions? And I would love for us to continue to innovate and focus and exchange around what works, because a lot of the solutions are reactions to the problems. We understand the problem, therefore this must be the solution. Well, that's a nice idea, but is there any evidence that's worked? Is there any evidence it would work in this particular set of circumstances? And I think that this is something we really need to be focusing on. And we have a lot of those solutions in the white paper. Some of them have more evidence than others. And I think that it's interesting. There's a session yesterday, it all blurs together, talking about the book that Ken Konka and Jeff DeBelko led, that environmental peacemaking, that really 20 years ago really helped spur a lot of thinking, not just on the environmental risks to conflict, but the environmental opportunities for peace building, for peacemaking. And when that book was released, the policy world said, that's an interesting idea. Do you have any evidence? And they didn't. It was all, there were academics who were kind of working in this space, had some interesting ideas, and if people would invest in it, they might be able to test and get some evidence. And what we've seen is that just out of necessity, as we've been working in these countries, and UNEP has done a lot in this space, but so have bilaterals, and a lot of humanitarian organizations have come to the conclusion you can't do the humanitarian assistance or peace building without addressing the natural resources that are necessary for livelihoods, that drive the economies, that are essential to basic services and food security. And as they do that, they start realizing, we've got to involve the environmental experts. And so we've been building this body of experience. And I think that we need to do that in a more deliberate way. And I think this is where some of the focus comes in. And we're focusing on this particular issue and seeing what we know and what and kind of how confident are we, kind of in the way that the IPCC, has their statements and their levels of confidence. Anyway, I want to really, again, congratulate the authors. This has been, you have pulled together a lot of very interesting pieces on relatively short notice. And then to Ali and Juliana for her Herculean effort in getting this all edited and clean and understandable and accessible, again, on a very short notice. This is going to be, I think this will be a piece that will stand the test of time, and that there will be a lot of people who will continue to kind of be inspired and informed by it. So well done, everyone.
Thank you, Carl. And I'm seeing many people who have to leave, and that's no problem. We'll keep recording in case you want to come back and watch the last couple of minutes. Carl, thank you so much for your leadership on this. I hope that, I can't imagine what it feels like also to see this conference come together, the second conference, it's all online, but just to see what the small sort of seeds that you have planted have grown into. So just thank you for your leadership and congratulations on all of that. I think Hesta said it well, and then Carl said it well, that the success of this project is all of our success. There are lots of thanks and gratitude flowing all over the place, and I think that that's probably a pretty good sign. But as I said before, I encourage all of you to really own the success of this as something that you've played a role in, whether this is your literal first time ever seeing us on Zoom, still a part of it, or you've been there for all the Zoom calls since the beginning. As I mentioned, and I know we're 2 minutes over, I'll just talk for one more minute. We are moving into a phase with the dissemination campaign and communications campaign still being designed, still being built. Would love to hear from you. I will put my email in the chat right now. And we are, hopefully, this whole project was designed to deliver this message to Stockholm Plus 50. That still is not exactly clear what that will look like. The side event applications are thankfully due still in another month. So we have a little bit of time to figure that out. But just to say that we would love to continue this as participatory a process as possible, and would love to stay in touch with all of you. So thank you for your enthusiasm, your kindness, your humanity, and your just excellent contributions to this field. We really appreciate it. And I can stick around for another minute here just as we leave the room. But officially, thank you for being here, and I wish you a great last day of the conference. And those of you who are recording can officially stop your recordings if you want.
Bye, thanks.